And Carissa touched on something. She said the key word that's next. If you guys want to turn over to Mark 15, we're going to talk now about the essence. We've explained the origin, the role of both male, female. Now we want to call something maybe a little more abstract, call out what we believe to be the essence of masculinity, the essence of femininity. Okay? So we've taken a look all the way back to the creation account for the origin. We've taken a look at exhortation through the apostles for the role. And now we want to, of course, as always, look at Jesus for the essence. Mark 15, since we're in Mark, you can find this account in the other Gospels. Mark 15, we'll look actually at, I've got 15:37, but let's look at 34. This is the crucifixion of Jesus. This is the murder of God. Okay? And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Now this is I just want to real quick talk about this if you haven't heard. The understanding of this is not that God forsook us, that God was particularly forsaken, but understand that in the crucifixion, Jesus became sin. And God can have nothing to do with sin. In that moment, Jesus became the manifestation of every dirty thought you've had. In that moment, all right, Jesus became everything dirty and gross about the world. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that real quick. My God, why have you forsaken me? Because he became sin. 37, and Jesus cried out with a loud voice and breathed his last. I would submit to you that the essence of masculinity is being responsible and taking responsibility sometimes for that which is not your fault. Because that's what Jesus just did. He just took responsibility for everything every other person in human history has done and pulled it on himself. I would submit to you that that is the essence of that is the essence of manhood, is the absorption of that responsibility. As she said, that absorption as the final decision maker, as the head. This isn't to mean that women, you don't have to be responsible anymore. Okay? Guys, this doesn't mean that you're out there admitting to crimes you didn't commit, all right? Or just running around just trying to take the blame for everything. You're like, don't fire him, fire me, and then your family's out on the street. Okay, that's not what we're talking about, but we're talking about in your priorities, in your faith, in your marriage, in your family, in your career, in your ministry, that you take responsibility. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to work with other business owners in the corporate world that simply don't take responsibility. Say, hey, look, we lost this person, now we've got some tasks that we need to divvy up until we fulfill it. It's like, well, I've never done that before. But this affects your component of the business. That's not my deal. You take things on, gentlemen. As the head, you take that on. You shield your family. Your little kid throws a baseball through a window, there's going to be repercussions at home, but that family comes through you. All right? That's that level of protection. You protect your children. All our parents have done that at some point. They've at some point accepted responsibility on that surface level. Within the family, it will be dealt with, to be sure. But they're going to accept that to the world because that's your household, that's your responsibility, that's your marriage, that's your family, that's your career, your ministry, that's your faith. I would submit to you that the essence of masculinity is taking responsibility, sometimes for that which is not your fault. All right? And then for the ladies.
For the women, we thought we came together and we talked about this. And this one was a little bit harder for us as we kind of talked through it. We spent the most time, I think, and I'll probably spend the least time talking about it. The essence of the female, of the wife, is to be a witness and to be a witness to their husbands. And if you look with me at Mark chapter 15, verses 40 through 41, and then I'm going to jump to chapter 16, verses 9 through 10. There were also women looking on from a distance, among whom were Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James the younger and of Joseph. And Salome, when he was in Galilee, they followed him and ministered to him. And there were also many other women who came up with him to Jerusalem. And then jumping to 16, verse 9. Now when he rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. She went and told those who had been with him as they mourned and wept. I just love this idea that the women were there and they were bearing witness to what was happening to our Lord, and that the Lord then first rose and showed himself to Mary Magdalene, a woman. You would think, he'd show himself to one of his disciples, but he went to Mary and showed himself first. And as we were kind of talking through this, the idea of being a witness to your husband and for your husband, I think the main thing that we came out with is that the men are called to kind of bear the brunt of things, but we're called to witness to them, and we can witness to them through our own walk, through our respectfulness to them. We're called as women to be lights of the gospel, to reflect the gospel, not only to others, but especially, I think, to our husbands and to our families. And I think that through our walk, through our actions, and through mostly, I think, our prayer, that we can be that light for our husbands and be that witness. For those of you who are getting married soon, thinking about getting married soon, want to get married sometime in your life, I think one of the most important books that I read before we got married, and I reread it after, and I probably should reread it every year just to remind myself, is The Power of a Praying Wife. It's a beautiful book, and it just talks about how through prayer, and Michelle has touched on this too, through prayer you can really turn your husband's heart, and turn your own heart too, to be quite honest. But I think one of the most important things in witnessing to your husband is just walking that life of being in the gospel.
And she hit on it. You guys, the entire point of all this is to reflect the gospel. I've said it before. If it doesn't reflect the gospel, what's the point? If it doesn't reflect the gospel, what's the point of marriage? If it doesn't reflect the gospel, what's the point of having kids? Okay? What's the point of having a job? It's all going to torch in the end, right? The entire point, as she said, is summed in the witness of women, is that your life should be a reflection of the gospel. Your marriage should be a reflection. Your career, your ministry, your children, everything should be a reflection of the gospel. That's what all this is summed up. You could put an equal mark at the bottom and just say, equals what? A reflection of the gospel. Because this is how God operates, and this is how He designed us to operate. All right, these are the basics. These are the core foundational understanding of not only just what it means to be a male and a female, but in marriage as husband and wife.